Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the SimGrid. Thanks for joining us on the SimGrid YouTube channel. We're back to our one-off races tonight. It is Thursday night and we have got something a little bit special for you. We have got a trip to Germany with German cars in the night, in the rain. Oh boy, that's going to be a recipe for, I'd like to say success, but I'm not too sure. But anyway, joining me to enjoy all of the fun tonight, myself, Dave Christie, Ewan O'Leary. Ewan, welcome along. How have you been? It's been ages since we've spoken.
It has been ages, yeah, and it's been ages since I've spoken to the people on the SimGrid as well, so good evening to you all from me as well. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to tonight. It's always good to be back on ACC once again. It's a wonderful sim, as we know, and it's going to produce some more great racing tonight. Some great cars, a wonderful circuit, and it's a great challenge for all of these guys as well. And one thing I must say, David, as well, if you're a fan of the new BMW M4 GT3, then you're absolutely in luck tonight, because I can count so many of them, so many of them on the grid tonight. It's going to be a fantastic show at home, I'm hoping for.
Yep, 26 by the time I counted them. In all seriousness, there's about 12 of them, or maybe 15. But yeah, they are very, very popular. Good to see the Porsche 911 as well, heavily represented tonight here in these wet conditions. So it's going to be a 60-minute race here at Nurburgring, and obviously it's going to be the German branded GT3. So you've got your Mercedes, you've got your Porsche, your BMW, even your Audis in there as well. And then obviously it's going to be in pitch black. And Nurburgring, Ewan, isn't the brightest of tracks. There's not a lot of trackside lighting for the cars, so we're going to be following a lot of headlights tonight.
No, not really. I mean, when we come to this particular venue for the Nurburgring 24 hours, whether that be in a sim or indeed in real life, we always say, well, this is actually quite the good bit, really, compared to the Nordschleife. It's quite well lit here, but in reality, compared to most circuits, it's actually not. It's just when you compare it to the Nordschleife that it's actually deemed okay. If you compare it to other venues around the world, then you do start to realise that it's not that great around the GP circuit either, and that's something that these guys are going to have to be challenging themselves with here this evening. It's also very difficult in the wet. Obviously in the dry, you've got to spot the wet patches and so on and so forth to avoid the lines to take. It's a lot easier to sight when you're in the dry, but when you're in the wet and you can't really see either side of where your headlights are, you don't quite have that vision that you normally would. Does make wet driving exceptionally more difficult, really, and so it's going to be a case of staying on the road, I think, tonight, possibly more than anything else.
Yep, wet driving is one of the things that we're dying to see what has changed since that massive 1.8 update that came early last month. So here we are onto the grid then. Free practice, still about 7 minutes left to go. And one of the great things about these Thursday night fun events that we do here at the SimGrid from time to time is the fact that the names you will see are very different to the ones that we see all day in, day out through the championship. So again, like all of the other events here, it's multiple splits, so based on your own perceived skill level, you can choose the split 1, which is the top split, split 2, split 3, or split 4, which is the slowest split based on their own their own decision. Interestingly, we've got about 30 cars that we've got in here tonight. Now, this is split 1 and split 2 because we had a lower entry than a lower pickup than we thought there was. So we've put both of the splits in. So you'll see that split 1 is in the white column on the left hand side, and you can see the grey markings for those that are in split 2, but they will all be racing at the same time. Interestingly, split 3 and split 4 almost at capacity as well, so obviously some new drivers or some learner drivers, some amateur drivers coming in, and it's great to welcome them on board. But 6 minutes left to go, and this shows perfectly on the screen here, Ewan, one of the other risks that the drivers have got to deal with tonight. That spray that comes up off the car in front, it's almost hypnotising, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's certainly not doing any favours to your vision, certainly when you're following through here. You do get the advantage of, obviously, the tail lights and the little rain light on the Porsche through the middle there as well, which does help you a little bit, I guess, to follow the car in front. But you really are a bit like a sheep at this stage. You've just got to kind of trust that the guy in front is going to be all right, really. And we're going to see this early on in the race. It's even worse actually from the inboard cameras. If you see the wipers going absolutely bananas on the front of that car at the moment. But yeah, I mean, it's you really do have to hope that the car in front has got things right. We're going to see this in the opening laps of the race as well, when we see the leader going around, when we're all in a train for the opening minutes. You know, what's it going to be like? The leader kind of being the pioneer. The grip levels different into every single corner. They're going to be figuring it out first, and then the rest of them following on from behind. So if the leader gets it wrong, there's quite a high possibility that some of the others behind are going to get it quite wrong as well, because you really don't know much more, to be honest. You don't know any better when you're in second place, so you just kind of go with it, and it can go a bit wrong from time to time. So it's very, very dangerous indeed. The spray is really affecting how you have to drive this race.
I'm pretty sure I just saw a complete puddle of water there, and the track status is of course shown as flooded, so there will be small rivers flowing across here at the Nurburgring, and makes it almost treacherous. You know, it's so difficult for these drivers to navigate safely round the circuit here. But as we said, 4 minutes 10 left to go into free practice. What we'll do is we'll actually go on board with Dave Jr. here in the SSRI. No, we're not going to go on board with him, are we? As he it's almost fate, isn't it? You know, you try and go on board with him, try and do an onboard lap with them, and he decides to stack it in the final chicane. That is not the best, but we'll jump on board with Fabian Febeck anyway. It shows you how treacherous this track is right now, Ewan, and I mean there is almost no consistent line through here.
Well, not really, but even if there was, it's still challenging for you to actually just get around here. And as you can see on board at the moment with the Porsche, that it's not that easy really. I don't even think I think even this kink on the back straight is a bit of a challenge for them at the moment, using all of the road and the grass on the left hand side as we go on board with Bonker, possibly for a lap here. So we'll be able to get a full view maybe as to what this circuit is actually looking like just at the moment. Down into turn number 1, you can expect quite a lot of water collecting here, and maybe a little bit wrong on the brakes, a little bit wide, but it's all okay in the end really. And getting through here into the Mercedes arena, that's not gone particularly well. It's going all right again, we're okay into the Mercedes arena. But yeah, it's really, really difficult. There's basically no grip out there. There's a lot of floating going on across the surface of the tarmac, and not much contact with the road. So it's very, very, very difficult indeed for everybody, and we can expect to see more of the same throughout qualifying coming up in the race as well.
Yep, qualifying just away to happen in a couple of minutes' time. But great to see as well that new BMW M4 GT3 with a 1.8 update, Ewan. That brand new hyperdrive addition that they've put in, where the car can just sort of float through the entire circuit. I'm wondering if that'll maybe shave a couple of seconds off their lap time potentially. But joking aside, obviously very, very difficult conditions, and again the track will change very slightly into to qualifying. But I mean, really, the thing is that this is going to be one of the most exhausting races that I would imagine these drivers will have taken place in or taken part in this week, because with the track being flooded, and the track still is at that flooded status, looks a tiny little bit less water. But again, you know, how much stamina do these drivers need to have to cope with the entire 60 minutes?
Well, yeah, it's a lot of concentration for all of these guys to get through the 60 minutes, really, because obviously the conditions are never really the same when you're heading into one particular corner. You've got to be always on your toes, so it's something to think about for all of them, really. Not only in the 15-minute qualifying, but to concentrate for an hour of the race time is going to be tricky as well. We've only been in for practice, or we were only in practice for a few minutes there, just watching everyone go around, and the amount of mistakes we saw, whether that being running wide or just not maximising maybe in a couple of areas, a couple of spins out there, it was very, very tricky for everybody, and there were a lot of mistakes by everybody, not because obviously bad drivers, but just difficult conditions. And so when we stretch that over an hour's length, it's going to be a lot more difficult to stay concentrated for that amount of time. It's a long time in these kind of conditions.
Certainly is. So we'll give the drivers a couple of minutes to get some laps in just now. Just noticing one driver will keep an eye on through the course of the afternoon is Paul Venter in the BMW M4 there. You may see him disappearing or going rather awkward angles through the corners there. So just letting you know, he has got a poorer connection than most out here just now. So it will look a little bit strange if we do cut to him, but you can safely ignore that because for the most part he's actually doing fairly well at keeping things prim and proper just now. But as we said, 12.5 minutes left to go. Some of the names here, Ewan, I'm looking through the entry list here. We've got Kieran Prendergast, we've got Sheldon Muscat, Mitja Bunka, Christian Lozanov, Florian Couturier. A lot of these names that we're used to seeing in some of the top tier competitions here, but that doesn't really mean anything tonight because very rarely do they actually have to compete in these conditions.
Well, yeah, exactly, and I think the one of maybe advantage you might be able to call it for everybody is that they will have known that these were going to be the conditions coming into this race. You know, obviously the name of the event in itself kind of gives it away, but obviously having a kind of awareness of the conditions prior to the event is going to help them out just that little bit. But even so, it is still a massive feat of concentration. But also, I think the fact it does help the newcomer or those that we're not seeing very much or very often in the SimGrid. I think the fact that it's a one-off event does help. You know, if it was a championship, then we might see, there's little quirks with the rules and stuff like that that you'd have to adapt to, and you think maybe new teams that might catch them out in the first couple of rounds. But since this is just a very simple 1 hour race, single event, just all guns blazing for an hour, I think that does play into their hands, and the unpredictability of the conditions may well just play into a newcomer's hands as well.
And that's the wonderful thing about these one-off events, though, is the fact that, as you say, you can just sort of pick it up and think, I've got a Thursday night free, actually, I'm going to go and have a little fun race with the SimGrid. And that's the main takeaway from this, is that these races are put on for you guys to enjoy at home, and for the guys and girls in the server as well to enjoy taking part in. We love having these drivers on taking part, and even tonight that's what nearly 60 drivers that are taking part in the different races. In fact, sorry, nearly 70 drivers that are taking part in the races tonight. And it's so much fun that we can sit here on a Thursday night and enjoy what will really be some good racing. Maybe not from Florian Couturier, who not only missed his braking point, went on to the curbing, and of course there's no traction on there whatsoever, and at that point you're really just a passenger. How much do you think we're going to see that happening tonight?
Well, I think a bit more than you would obviously in the drive, because obviously turning while braking a little bit more difficult, and it's quite a kink there. It's quite a little jink to the right that you have to do. So you do have to line yourself up for it when you're in these kind of conditions. And obviously, as we've just seen, you don't want to be on the white lines or the curves or the AstroTurf, because you'll maybe even find the gravel on the outside just by outbraking yourself. So it is a bit of a balancing act. But obviously, turn one is also, if not the best, then certainly one of the best overtaking opportunities. So you're really going to be walking that fine line between making a move and keeping it on the road.
Just watching with 9 minutes left to go in qualifying just now then. The other thing as well, Ewan, with Nurburgring as well, 3.2 mile circuit, one of the most famous racetracks, I would say, in Germany, and a staple for a GT3 racing, sprint GT3 racing. This new 1.8 update and these new cars, new car, the BMW M4 GT3, and the balance performance changes, how much do you think that's going to change the meta, the pace of the race tonight?
Well, I kind of think it already has, because all these guys have obviously selected cars accordingly. Obviously, if they were running this race 2 months ago, 3 months ago, then obviously the choice may well have been a little bit different, and so in a way it already kind of has been changed. But I do think with the addition of a new car, the BMW M4, people are often inclined to try out the new car or drive it a little bit more, because obviously new stuff, people want to drive the new cars, and that's all fine. It's just human nature, really, isn't it? So I'm not surprised exactly that the BMWs are being selected, but whether they'll be up the front of the field and completely dominating is another problem. I think, judging by the practice times and the early qualifying times here, it looks fairly even. We've got Mercedes, BMW, Porsche all at least inside the top 10, and so that is a good sign for us. So yeah, we're already kind of seeing the effects of the updates, I suppose, on our screens right now.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point indeed. So this is the number 23 of Simone Nafra for Playground Racing Team on the run down to that right-hander at the Dunlop curve there. And again, the Dunlops are going to be such a difficult, that hairpin right where you've got to double back on yourself before you start that run up to the Schumacher S's. I think that is really going to be a flashpoint tonight, because the breaking point for that is downhill, and people are going to be tempted to take a little bit of that left-hand side there. As you can see, someone Nafra really struggling to just get the power down, and let alone on breaking points. I think it's literally going to be every single part of the track that drivers are going to be struggling with, because the problem with it is the fact that obviously as soon as you try and get any sort of power down to the back wheels at all, you're at danger of either going sideways or going backwards.
Yeah, people tend to think that that's impossible with the traction control that these GT3 cars have, but it really isn't impossible whatsoever. Very, very easy to get things wrong despite the driver age that these guys have, and so kind of mastering that is a very, very difficult task. I believe Bonker is having a pretty good lap here, by the way. Don't worry about that. He's not flown into the wall. He's having a decent time of things by the looks of things. The gap's obviously quite large at this stage because the skill gap needed is very, very big indeed between the best and worst competitors. So 0.7 of a second will only get you fourth in this one, but that's quite a big margin to be off, to be honest, to get into fourth position. Yeah, it's a very interesting qualifying session, and not like we're used to seeing really on the SimGrid. We're often seeing about 17 cars within a second, but obviously the amount of skill and the amount of things that can go wrong throughout a lap means the time gaps are really quite large.
Telling you, Ewan, that hyperdrive function on the M4 is amazing. It's going to cut seconds off of the lap times here. It just merges through walls whenever it likes to. That's quite the feature to pull out the hat. But still looking at the pole positioning, we've got a new pole sitter then. Yannick Thimmel goes up with a 2:18.632, and we're already starting to see the big fast lap times starting to come in with 5 minutes left to go. It's Yannick Thimmel from Christian Lozanov, from Sean Stewart, Olivier Kerton, and then Alex Nunes is your top 5. 6th place is Florian Couturier, then 7th place is Mitja Bonka, Fabien Febeck in 8th, 9th place for Maximilian Prahl, and 10th place for Nicolas Caputo. Simone Nafra then still trying to get through here. We've got another yellow flag for the car going straight on at turn 1. Turn 1 then is something that we need to have a chat about, because late braking is something that they try to do, and given that on the first lap especially your braking is pretty much decided by the car in front of you, I think we're really at risk tonight, Ewan. I don't know if you agree with me, of having a sort of like a Skittles situation where the cars end up becoming like bowling pins.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think it's always a danger here at the Nurburgring. I think it's just a circuit that's very conducive to that kind of action, but especially in conditions like these where you can't really see where you're going, you don't have much control over where you are going either, and you can't see where that particular place is, so it's a very, very dangerous situation. And so let's just hope everybody keeps calm into the opening few corners of this race, because we could see a fair few competitors spun around if we're not careful. But obviously if they all take things nice and calm into the first turn, then it will all be okay. But as I've seen, these cars are on the limit into turn 1 really. You're braking before that little jink to the right, and so you kind of have to straighten off that little bit, and that's fine when you're on your own, but when you're starting side by side like we are going to be in a minute, it can be a problem. The space becomes a lot more valuable, and there's not going to be much of it down into turn 1.
Just try to think off the top of my head here, Ewan, the times that these cars would be doing in the dry. I think it's about a 150, what's it, 156, 157, maybe a little bit faster. So at the moment we're about 20 odd seconds slower than what we would be doing in the dry. So that really shows you how treacherous and how difficult it is for these cars. But we've got a new person up in second place, Christian Loznov, 2:18.667 there, just 3/100ths of a second. Sean Shute up into third, consolidates that one now with a 2:18.702. It doesn't improve the position, but gets up just 7/100ths of a second into behind there. Alessandro Brenda is about a second up on their time just now. That'll put them in 8th. 10th place, to lose a little bit of time on that final corner here, but 2.5 minutes left to go, and it's potentially that there's still something in the bag, but realistically, I mean, I can't see any massive improvements coming here, Ewan, can you?
Not really. I think it's going to be from one of the top three, certainly. Only 700 separating them at the moment, and that is very, very impressive indeed, because as I mentioned earlier, so many things can go wrong here. You're spending more than 2 minutes on one singular lap around here. That only 700 separating the top three is a really remarkable achievement from all of those drivers, actually. But yeah, you're right, anybody coming from behind to snatch pole away at this stage is very much going to be a surprise, and you'd imagine that everybody in the field, or almost everybody anyway, has got at least a semi-competitive lap time on the board, a lap where they've stayed on the road throughout the entirety of it, even if it wasn't absolutely perfect.
Well, a minute and a half left to go, and we have got, it looks like pretty much everyone with the lap in. We've got 2 cars, Paul Venter and Jacques Vermeulen, who don't have times in just now, but we've got 23 cars on the board that do. As we said at the top, it's still Yannick Thimmel by 3/100ths of a second over Christian Lozinov, and then in third place it is Sean Shute. But this is Kieran Prendergast, a name we haven't really seen for a good while here at SimGrid. Used to race quite a lot in the top tier competitions, but I believe he's off doing other things in other platforms now. But back with us tonight with BP Racing, coming through on the run up now. This is towards the NGK chicane, into the chicane just now. Has to get heavy onto the brakes, pulls the car in nice and early. That's going to throw it over to the right hand side here. Again, it just looks so clumsy, it looks so slow, and that's from all of these cars here, and it just looks like it's almost tippy toes for the entire lap.
Yeah, it really is. On the steering wheel, on the throttle, on the brakes, you're just really trying to be very gentle as Prendergast goes into 4th place. We said that nobody was going to come from behind and really surprise the top positions, but that is a bit of a surprise, I have to say. 10 positions being pretty much jumped there into 4th, so a very impressive job, I have to say. And yeah, it's very much a case of just tiptoeing your way around here. I've mentioned it through the back straight. It's not really a turn that we often think about, especially in the drive, but turn 12 is actually becoming a corner, and that little bit of AstroTurf on the outside of it is becoming quite slippery as well, so even more reason to be very, very careful. Slow is fast, it seems, at this stage.
So normally, Ewan, with us commentators, we have this thing where we throw the other commentator under the bus and go, so who do you think is going to win tonight? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be nice tonight. I'm simply going to ask you, how many cars do you think tonight are going to finish on the lead lap?
On the lead lap? Well, I'd be impressed if there were many more than 10, actually. And I know that sounds a bit ludicrous, but I think even factoring in the lap times, the spread of the field is quite big, because of obviously, late in this one, it's obviously very difficult. So the time gaps are obviously going to be bigger, but also mistakes are going to affect things.
Wow, sorry, I was completely distracted there, Ewan, because 2 times jumping in there as Fabian Fabek goes up to 4th and Alex Nunes up to 5th as well. Listen, you were not too pessimistic about that 10 cars, because I personally thought it was going to be 6 that we're going to have on the lead lap, but we'll wait and see and find out exactly what is happening. So a very warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen. If you have just tuned in just now, you've not missed anything just yet. We're about to get going for an hour of racing here on the Thursday night casual race here at the SimGrid. It's the Meister event here at Nurburgring. German cars at a German track in the middle of the night, where it's absolutely tipping it down in thunderstorm conditions. That sounds like a Thursday night fun to me. Certainly is being. So as we said, Christian Lozanov. Now we completely missed that. You and I completely missed that because we were too busy looking. Yannick Thummel isn't on pole position because Christian Lozanov has just pipped him by 9/100ths of a second. So it's now going to be Christian Lozanov on the very, very last lap as we were busy talking.
Yeah, well, as we tend to. But yeah, I mean, it is one of those things. Normally you'd say, I guess, that the track get quicker, maybe water getting cleared out of the way, but I don't think that was the case here at all, really. There's no water being moved off this surface at the moment. It's just completely flooded, as the game suggests. But what these guys are getting is used to the conditions just a little bit quicker in that respect. So that may well have been helping here for him to be able to get the pole position, and fair play to him to be able to get that one. He'll get a clear view into turn number 1. And I think that's the best place to be, really. Even being at the back, I think, is quite dangerous here in this race. The front is the only safe place, and even then, it is filled with danger into turn number 1, especially. But obviously, the less risk you can take, the better. And so, pole position, obviously, the perfect way to do that.
Yeah, certainly is. And I was actually reminded of two things here. So firstly, we did the very first Meister event here, Ewan, about the same time last year, where it was Niels Noyox who won the first ever event that we did, but it wasn't locked to German brands back then, so he actually won it in a McLaren 720S. And just before we came on air, I was telling you about what I'd been up to, and everyone is trying to be on iRacing with the F1 car around the Nordschleife, trying to beat Jimmy Jardier and Ermin Ham Sandwich. But it turns out our very own Michael Hamlet appears has been trying to join in that, and it sounds like he's hurt himself when trying to do that. So yeah, that's not the best. All the best, Michael. Get well soon. I'm pretty sure though, Ewan, that sounds like textbook driver excuses 101 for not wanting to join a race.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually as well, but you beat me to it. You beat me to it a little bit on that one. But yeah, I know it's been quite popular over on the other sims. So not a lot of time has been given to other things like this. So yeah, fair play. It's an exciting addition, but either way, yeah. Hopefully, don't injure yourselves at home if you are doing it.
Oh, love it. I gave it a shot as well. But back to this, because this is where it's at. We're back with the premiere of GT3 Sims. It is, of course, Assetto Corsa Competizione. This is beautiful. I want to go through the grid, but I'm part of me is just looking at that, and I'm thinking back to was it not Dubai last year, where they had the 24 hours. The 24-hour race there, and it was absolutely tipping it down. And this is exactly what it looked like. The beautiful reflections of the cars and the rain, absolutely banging it down. It is just stunning to look at. However, that's about all that it is good to look at, because it's certainly not going to be good to look at for these drivers in these cars. Let's take you through the grid then for your second ever Meister event here on the SimGrid. Christian Lozanov on pole position ahead of Yannick Thummel. Sean Shute on third position, along with Fabian Fabeck in third and fourth. Fifth place for Alex Nunez, alongside Kieran Brendergast in row 3. Row 4 is going to be Olivier Curtin, with Maximilian Prahl in 8th position. Row 5 is Niels Engelhardt, along with Florian Couturier. Row 6 is Nicolas Caputo, with Alessio Berenda. Row 7 is going to be Sheldon Muscat and Nico Kuzima. Row 8 is going to be Randy Renandito, alongside Sasha Gemeinhardt. Row 9 is going to be Matteo Aglieri and Dave Jr. in 18th position. Row 10 is going to be Mansour Ferhat along with Simone Nafra. And then in row 11 in 21st is Tony Rammer with 22nd of Noah Eder. And Paul Venter and Jacques Vermeulen starting 23rd and 24th. But I don't know if they will be taking to the grid. We'll find out very, very shortly. Anyway, Ewan, right, I'm the bad part of me is wanting our broadcast director Mike Yao to cue up a Skittles noise, you know, the whole 10-pin bowling noise when you get a strike, that sort of noise, just in case. I hope we don't need it, but yeah, it's going to be messy.
It has the potential, certainly, but obviously, as I said earlier, if everybody just stays calm into turn number one, then it should be all right. But even then, I guess mistakes can be made, even if you're not trying to be a hero on lap number one and win the race at the first turn, then it can still go wrong. So it's a very, very difficult situation for everybody to be in. Really, hopefully, everybody will be able to be able to get away with it. But yeah, there we are. We'll have to wait and see in the next couple of moments.
Yeah, we certainly will, Ewan. A minute left to go. 39 of David Mootke was our sole Audi. I could hear Michael Hamlet in pieces, essentially, because he was looking for our sole Audi, and it doesn't look like they're taken to the grid. So we had the promise of one. I've got to be honest. I can think of more fun things that I'd rather do with my Thursday than drive an Audi R8 LMS Evo in the wet. They're horrible to drive in the dry, they're horrible to drive in the wet. So yeah, maybe he's off to go and watch EastEnders. I have absolutely no idea. But you're doing a much, much better thing by staying here with us, myself, David Christie, and Ewan O'Leary, as we get ready to go live for the second ever Meister event here at the Nurburgring on the SimGrid 60-minute race. And thankfully, it's just for fun. It's just for all of us to enjoy. Now, having a look at the race itself, there are no set times for drivers to take pit stops or anything like that. So just think of it as a pure 60-minute sprint race here at the Nurburgring. One thing you could think you obviously there's a very famous streaming platform that has a very famous programme from F1 called Drive to Survive. That could be, if they made like a documentary on this particular race, Ewan, I think that would have to be the title of it.
Yeah, survival is going to be the word of the or the order of the day. I think I said it in the opening few moments of this broadcast, and it is going to be relevant throughout the day. Really, just staying on the road is going to gain you a lot of places. I would imagine there's going to be people everywhere, and car parts everywhere potentially as well. So let's hope that's not the case. But that the ones who stay on the road the most can stay consistent, of course, rather than those who are the best at overtaking or whatever, is probably going to be the ones that come out on top today. But you do actually you can't be trundling around at a snail's pace either. You do have to keep up some kind of pace, but just keep things nice and orderly all at the same time. You've got to find that right balance.
Yeah, you do. It's very, very cold as well. 7 degrees air temperature and track temperature. So about going slow, there's only slow that you can go. There's only so slow that you can go, but you have to keep that tyre balance in. You have to keep that tyre temperature in and the tyre pressures as well. We will find out how that all goes in just a couple of minutes time. We've got one car still showing as in pit lane. That is the number 22, Mitja Bonka. So Bonka is into pit lane. He is potentially starting from there. I'm not too sure, but with just a couple of minutes to go, maybe that's a brave idea actually from Bonka, Ewan, because he might miss out on all of the nonsense that's about to unfold here.
Yeah, maybe it is not a bad idea. Don't forget, P11, he would have been smack bang in the middle of everything that's going to go on into turn one here. He's not at the front where he can try and get away from it maybe into the first turn. He's not at the back where he can just lift off and watch everything unfold in front of him. He is right in the middle of it, and there's no way to avoid anything that might happen. So he might well have taken on a very good choice there. But after all, if this is very orderly and very nice into turn number one, then he's not going to be laughing after that. He's going to have a lot of work to do. So it's a bit of a risk, but I think it was one that's likely to pay off.
Oh my days, that is standing water you can see already on the track on the outside of turn one, as we can see at the right hand side there. But we are getting ready to go racing here. The cars making their way through to the final chicane. Chat, get your F's in advance, get your prayers, your thoughts, everything for what is about to unfold here. Get your water wings, your alligator lilos, whatever you want to go, because I think the race down to turn one is going to be like the race down Rubber Dinghy Rapids. It's going to be Christian Lozanov alongside Yannick Thummel leading off what can only be described as the rest of them through a 60-minute race. Incredibly treacherous conditions here at the Nurburgring. You cannot see anything from the cars behind. 25 cars to start. How many are going to finish? Answers on a postcard. We are go. And I am getting very, very, very nervous because all of the cars come streaming down to turn one. It's going to be onto the brakes as late as you possibly can. All you can see is headlights, headlights, headlights. Well, already it's far more organised. It's far more... I'm thoroughly, thoroughly disappointed in that, Ewan.
It's very, very nicely done from everybody there. I don't believe anybody has got through one car around by the looks of things in the end, and yeah, there we are. We do have a car around in the midfield, but it took until turn 2 for that one to happen. We actually got a couple. Courtier first of all, and another one as well. The 29 looks like it's gone around as well by the looks of things. But yeah, it was going so well through turn number 1. Pretty good through the Mercedes arena as well as they streamed down towards the next chicane and then the hairpin.
Well, that was a nice, interesting start, but for the most part, it's all still very, very orderly. However, Christian Lozanov has been absolutely mugged because at the front of the field then, it's Yannick Thummel who has taken the lead late onto the brakes, then down into that hairpin right at Dunlop. It's then through up the hill towards the Schumacher S's at speed. How brave are you going to be taking this chicane here? How much speed and how much pace are you going to have? Kieran Prendergast up into 6th position. I think that's where he started. It is because he got up into 4th and then went down a couple of places. But again, for the most part, this is all very, very orderly. A lot of the cars taking it very, very gingerly and just sort of trying to feel this race out here. And you can't blame them, to be honest, Ewan, because obviously 60 minutes left to go. You want to make sure you're actually going to finish this race. Oh, and that's a huge moment from Fabian Febeck there. At the tail end of that car just absolutely sliding out there.
Yeah, that's what I mean about turn 12 actually becoming a corner, really, in the wet weather conditions. It's not really a thing you think about in the dry, but it is in the wet as one of the Mercedes goes skating off, shoot there, going off through the chicane, over the gravel, back onto it again and losing 2 places because of it, by the looks of things, to Engelhardt and Caputo. So into a 10th place for him, but yeah, he's taken the easy route there, really. It's better to do that than spin your car trying to make the chicane, I suppose. But either way, it's a couple of positions lost as we got a BMW round at the final turn.
Yeah, here we go then, looking back with the leaders then as Yannick Thummel keeps the cars going through there. You've got Alessio Brenda trying to fight it out with that's Kuzma and the number 7 car just ahead. So getting things going. Oh, we've got a yellow flag for the leader. The Thummel's gone off. Thummel is off into the wall there, so that means that Fabian Febeck takes the lead of this race, and that is a huge, huge change. And we need to see if that was assisted or whether that was by himself there, Ewan.
Well, there was nearly 1.5 seconds over the line, so I'd be very surprised if there was indeed a bit of a problem. It looks like he might well have got the outside curb, because it is very, very treacherous as he's nearly going wide again here, trying to trying to defend from Fumo, and indeed through he goes. But yeah, goodness me, it's a big moment already early on in this race, only lap 2, and we've had our first leader already taken out of the lead. Looks like through only himself to blame, I'm afraid.
Wee! Back end spins out, and that is very, very unfortunate. Does the good thing and just reverses out the way. Great driving there from Yannick Thummel there to get back going. He'll still be in with a shout here, will Yannick, but he is down in 9th position just now. One man who does deserve a run of good luck is Sheldon Muscat, because no matter when we've seen him in races, it's just not gone his way. It's been very, very difficult to see a decent race for Sheldon. Hopefully we're going to see that tonight. But back up with the front end, Christian Lozanov still trying to hunt down Fabian Fabek. Then just a second between those two as we still see the number 7 just behind Sheldon Muscat here. That is that's actually Alessio. Well, that's my fault for saying, are we going to see a decent race tonight for Sheldon Muscat? I've cursed him.
Yeah, a bit of a curse there, I'm afraid, and he's under a bit more pressure here from Alessio Brenda by the looks of things for 12th position. He might be about to be 13th, but yeah, absolutely. It was just mirror watching, really. Oh, as we've got the 168 around here as well, unfortunately, as not the last spin. We're going to see Tony Ramo, that was, by the way, in the BMW. But yeah, Muscat under a lot of pressure from a lot of cars in behind, but it just got a bit spooked, and the Porsche in behind, Quisma, who's just now in front, is just getting into the mirrors, really, and it really distracted Muscat. We sent him sailing over the chicane there, and in the end there was absolutely no choice other than for the Porsche to go through there, and so the positions have now been reversed, and he's nearly off again there.
I don't even know what to say about that, Sheldon. Come on, lad, settle yourself down. Right, this is the problem for me with Sheldon, is the fact that he's a really, really fast lad behind the wheel. But the problem is that it seems to have no luck whatsoever, and obviously the thing with this is the fact that these are incredibly treacherous conditions. I wouldn't be able to survive out there more than half a lap, absolutely guaranteed right now. So it's just an absolute test right now, and we're seeing that's a shame to see, collected by the no, was that the 24 or the 14? Yeah, it was the 24 of Retnandito, and that is Noah Eder getting sent around. Love to see that. Of course, no stewards or live stewards out tonight, so it's all basically a race to survive. But I really do like that, the fact that Retnandito stopped the car, let him go by, knew that it was his fault, and let him go by again. So this is back to 6th position now, fourth, as Kieran Prendergast is making his way just now. Mitya Bonka has disconnected from the back of the field as well, so we're down to 23 cars out there just now. And I tell you what, Kieran Prendergast, Ewan, looking very, very uncomfortable in that Mercedes, trying to get the car around the final corner here, but yeah, it's just it's not happening for him today.
No, I think Prendergast might well have just made a mistake in the last few moments, because he was 4th not so long ago, but he's now dropped to 6th again. He's gone quite a long way. Well, this is a bit of a mess into the final turn. A lot of stuff going on there. Vermeulen was involved. A number of BMWs, 4 BMWs all in a row here, and they're all swapping positions here as well. As off goes Prendergast again. I think that's the second time, possibly within a lap at this stage.
Hang on. I called that. I said he was uncomfortable in that car, and he ended up doing that. So I'm taking credit for that one. I called that. That was my expert insight, Ewan, and I am not having anything else said about that.
Well, I'm sure Kieran Prendergast might have something else to say, but there we are. We'll have to find that out afterwards, because we are cursing quite a few people already. But yeah, that's not. Off goes Sean Shute as well as soon as we put the camera on him. So he's off into the, or hopefully not off into the barrier. It looks like he's just about avoided it. But yeah, goodness me, a couple of mistakes early on as we expected.
Certainly is, and here comes the number 2 grey Mercedes around the Dunlop curve, just behind that yellow multicoloured BMW 97. And I've been advised not to mention the drivers by name, just in case that's what's actually jinxing them here. I think it's nothing to do with it, because we can see here Yannick Thummel doing a grand job of trying to catch up to the number 97 BMW of Nicolas Caputo there. The simple thing is, the simple fact is that these are impossible conditions to drive in, let alone to race in. So the fact that we've still got cars circulating is a testament to the amount of skill that these drivers have. Ewan, another thing that I've just noticed is that twice now, Christian Lozanov has had fastest lap of the race, 2:18.9 this time by. Last time by it was a 2:19.0, and now the gap to in front is about 9 tenths of a second. We've got more yellow flags as the number 29 has gone off there. That is Sasha Gemeinhardt that is got going again, but again it's this AstroTurf that seems to be catching these drivers out.
Yeah, it really does hold the water exceptionally well, does the AstroTurf. And I know that the tarmac is pretty soaked through right now as well, but the AstroTurf is even more so, as Caputo just going for a small half spin, small mistake through turn 1, and Thummel's going to be all too happy to fill that void there in 7th position, so he goes through, recovering from his spin a little bit earlier on. But yeah, the AstroTurf really do want to avoid it, like white lines and curbs. Really, you don't want to be touching many of them, if any at all, especially through the braking zones. As looks like we've got another cut off at turn number 1. Getting back on again though now, I think, which is all good news in the end. Simone Nafra looks like he might have been the one.
Just watching them recovering there, and again the thing is that when the aquaplaning does occur, it's very easy because it does shift the water around through to the to the rest of the track. Combine that with the fact that there's no visibility in these cars when you're behind another car here, it makes it almost impossible to concentrate. And the other thing, Ewan, is in the next hour or so, in the next half an hour, as we've got a car backwards into the gravel trap. That's an unusual one. That is the number 39 there that is facing backwards of Jacques Vermeulen. But yeah, I don't think I've seen a car facing backwards into that gravel trap before.
Oh yeah, I think you just might have sent it a little bit too deep, coming through the left-hander at turn number 5, and then gone onto the grass on the outside quite possibly and looped it coming into 6. That's the only reasonable explanation I can think of anyway, for Vermeulen to be off there. So 23rd for him now, which is a shame, but he'll have the chance to recover, of course. But staying on the road is such an important part of this. At this stage, it has been since the very start, and it will continue to be, because we're only just over 10 minutes into this one now. You really do have to keep concentrated throughout the entirety of the hour. It's no good being good for 55 minutes if you're going to throw it away in the final 5. So it's all about consistency and survival for everybody.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I'm just watching, we've got the gap down to the leaders now, just 7 tenths of a second here. Christian Lozanov hunting down that Porsche, and look at that though, in the top 10, Ewan, we've got 5 Porsches and 4 Mercedes. So where this race was inundated with joiners choosing the BMW, those BMWs are going absolutely nowhere. You've not got, in fact, you've only got 1 BMW in the top 10.
Well, yeah, only the top 12 really. Caputo really outdoing himself here, because he's got quite a few cars between himself and the next BMW. So clearly not the favoured car choice. Whether that's a Nurburgring thing or a wet weather conditions thing remains to be seen. Really, obviously that will become apparent over the next months, I suppose. But yeah, for now, the BMW not looking particularly favourable in these conditions right now, but Caputo doing a good job. I haven't seen him off the road or really running wide or doing anything wrong so far in this race, and that might, is part of the reason why he's so far up. Sorry, yeah, I've jinxed it, but he's still there for now.
I was about to say, I saw a yellow flag and I was like, no, please no, but turns out it was the 168 of Rammer down in 22nd place there. Very appropriate name for Assetto Corsa Competizione. I wonder if he's in any of the public servers, but still watching that gap between your first and second place, still just a second here, and I wonder if there is a little bit of gamesmanship here going on from Christian Lozanov, trying to hold on to the back of Fabian Febeck there as we almost hit 15 minutes. It feels like, Ewan, we've done about 45 minutes here at Nurburgring in this 60-minute race, but this is a 4-car battle we've got going on here as we see Mansour Ferhat in a Porsche in the middle of the biggest BMW sandwich I think Germany has seen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very difficult for him at the moment to stay or to get in front of these guys. But this is where his pace has got him to, really, as we go up to the previous race leader, Yannick Tummel, because he's trying to get through on Niels Engelhardt at the moment. Down the inside into one. There's not much space for them both here. It's fairly wide normally, but in these wet weather conditions, not much space up for grabs. But they both managed to get it stopped nicely, and it's a nice textbook move, really, by the number 2 Mercedes.
Yeah, that really is. That was a great move there for Thummel to take that place from Engelhardt. So yeah, fantastic stuff to see that, and that was, like you say, absolutely textbook. The other point I was just a way to say before we saw a car going backwards into the gravel was with about maybe half an hour to go, maybe 25 minutes to go. Looks like our weather forecast says that somehow the conditions are going to be getting even worse. And that is a bit. I'm struggling to think of how much worse it can possibly get. In fact, the weather's updated now even more. I mean, it is now going to get absolutely even worse consistently over the next for the remainder of the race here, for the next 40 minutes. So these drivers just settling into a rhythm. And it's all going to go worse. Here is the number 39 then. This is what happened to them. This is Jacques Vermeulen. And again, wheels on the grass. And that is why they went backwards into the gravel pit.
Yeah, we saw that a little while ago. It looked a little bit strange from the onboard camera we were looking at. But yeah, that explains all really. Just getting things a little bit wrong through 5. Tried to catch it into 6 but caught the grass all at the same time. And so it was into a spin, I'm afraid, but there we go. It dropping down, but already it got back up to 21st by the looks of things in the last few moments. So a lot of cars down this end of the grid recovering, and you can see here's Verhard again, but we only saw him 2 minutes ago, and he was in a 4-car BMW sandwich, but now it's only reduced to a 2-car battle. That's how quickly things can change, really, around here.
It changes in an absolute instant and before our very eyes. That's what we can look forward to. Christian Lozanov actually has dropped away a little bit from the leader by about 0.7 of a second. That gap's going to come back down again. I wonder if Christian has just made a little bit of an unforced error there while trying to chase down your race leader. Behind them then is the 195 of Prahl, still in 3rd position. Maximilian Prahl. 4th place for Alex Nunes. 5th place for Olivier Curtin. Yannick Thummel in 6th position, Niels Engelhardt in 7th, Nico Kuzma in 8th position, 9th place for Kieran Prendergast, and Nicholas Caputo rounds out the top 10 as we head into our 17th minute of a 60-minute race here. And again, this is not what I expected at all, Ewan. I was expecting chaos and carnage and us having a good laugh and stuff like this, and this is actually, for the most part, an incredibly serious good race.
It has been so far. There's always onto the AstroTurf for Hutton. You can just see how much pace he loses by just running over onto there. It's really wet out there on the AstroTurf. Holds a lot of water, and we just saw it at first hand there. But yeah, most of them have been keeping things fairly nice so far, and the battles have been good as well. It's very easy for it to be a bit of follow the leader and just not really focusing on anything in terms of battling in these kind of conditions, but that hasn't really been the case so far either. There's been a bit of a duel for the battle for the lead at least, but Fabek and Lozanov have put themselves 1.7 or 8 seconds apart at the moment, so they're all running nose to tail. Well, not quite nose to tail, but they're running in a line at least, but I don't think that's it for the lead of the race. I know there's no pit stops or whatever, but this race is definitely going to change at the front.
Yeah, it certainly is, with a brief yellow flag there, and I'm just trying to get an idea on who that was. I think that was the 222 at the back again of Florian Couturier. In fact, Couturier was up in the top 10 at one point and is now all the way back down towards the end of the grid there. So Florian Couturier is just having an absolute monster of a race, and I don't mean that in a good way whatsoever. But here is your race leader then, Fabian Fabek, and we might as well keep an eye on this just now, because Fabek again losing a lot of time there. That's another 0.5 of a second, and you can see the rear wheels of that Porsche lighting up, trying to feel the pressure that is getting applied from Christian Lozanov, and there's no traction at all for this machine. He is fighting it tooth and nail, trying to get it turned right. You can see just how viciously he's having to fight that steering wheel. I wonder actually if we can get an onboard from the driver's view of this, just to watch how much the driver of Fabian Fabek there. Look at this. Look at how much Ewan he's having to saw at that wheel. How much steering input he's having to gingerly, just gently guide that car around. And honestly, this is more like a golf cart than a multi-million pound GT3 machine.
It's very, very challenging at the moment for everybody. Normally we'd obviously be criticising chopping at the wheel like that so much, but you need to in these kind of conditions. You need to adapt all the time. As Sean Shute, I'm afraid, has not been having a great time of things, down to 13th after getting onto the AstroTurf, I presume, at turn 3 here once again, because that has been happening a couple of times. But yeah, you do really need to adapt throughout every corner, really, and the only way to do that is just completely all arms and legs in the cockpit. So it's very, very busy for everybody, and everybody's experiencing that right now. Side by side into turn 5 is going to be attempted by the looks of things, but might well be pulled off here. This is a good racing between a couple of BMWs.
That's a brilliant move from Randy Retnandito on Simone Nafra. They're still going for it side by side. I think Randy is going to try and close that door. No, just lets it open a little bit, but has the inside line for the Dunlop car. They're coming up very, very quickly up to the back of that number 42 car there, and that, of course, is Paul Venter. And it just slides by like doesn't even exist. That means that Simone Nafra is going to try and get by through here at the Schumacher races, and that is the Teriyaki Boys Tokyo Drift. Tries to hold on to it. Retnandito gets absolutely clobbered by Paul Venter and Simone Nafra, and Venter does a 360, tries to get the car back on the track there, but Retnandito gets joining up. And I've got to be honest, I am thoroughly impressed with Retnandito for how long he kept that slide going.
Well, yeah, it was a very long slide indeed, and he well, it didn't really look like catching it in the end. It was always going around, but it was just a very slow spin in front of the two drivers behind, and obviously Nafra didn't really see that one coming, and so got into the back of Venter, and so he's ended up causing a bit of a three-car incident there, I'm afraid. But it's very easy to happen. You can't really slow down through the middle of the Schumacher races in the wet either, really, so you can't really blame him. It's just one of those unfortunate things that happens from time to time. It's given an advantage to a couple of others, and Retnandito is still struggling by the looks of things. Couturier, who's had his own issues, is now fancying his chances.
He certainly is, and Retnandito under pressure now from Florian Couturier behind him there in that treble 2 at Porsche, and this is going to be down into turn 1. I've got a feeling that he's going to be a little bit hamstrung on these brakes here, trying to get that car stopped. It's going to swing sideways, and Couturier is going to absolutely eat this car for breakfast. And again, you see a little jink to the right hand side there as he's trying to stab that throttle pedal on, and it's just never going to work like that. He's stuck in between a rock and a hard place, because Paul Venter, that is up in front of him in that 20th position, is actually much slower than Retnandito is just now. But Florian Couturier is catching the pair of them really quickly as well. So, Retnandito can't really do anything right now until he gets past Paul Venter. But thrilling battles nonetheless. Way too deep into the corner there. That's going to hand another chunk of time to Florian Couturier here. And it's surely now just going to be a matter of time here, Ewan.
Yeah, you'd think so, considering where the Triple Two actually qualified in this race, and where he's been in terms of his actual race pace. Obviously, a couple of mistakes is how he's outside of the top 20, but when he does get it going, then he really does have some pretty good pace. So he might well be past these two BMWs before long, and indeed the 889 as well, which is only a couple of seconds up the road from these guys. But it's a nice free car battle at the moment, once again staying off the curbs, which did so badly for Retnandito not so long ago. And he's keeping it nicely on the black stuff this time, but I'm afraid Venter isn't, going a little bit wide there, and might well let two positions slide in a couple of corners here, with Couturier looking to take advantage as well.
Well, let's see how this one pans out, because Nunez as well in the number 15, Alex Nunez in 4th position. just on the back of Maximilian Prahl for third place right now, 0.7 of a second. So this battle is developing very, very nicely. Florian Couturier is going to have him on the inside of the last corner, and there's a car stopped in the middle of the track as well, and Couturier takes that like candy from a baby. Goodness me, 35 minutes left to go. But back to Alex Nunes here, who's now dropped back actually. So he's now 1.7 seconds now behind Prahl. So any advantage that he did have now has kind of dropped off here. So I wonder if there's been a little bit of a mistake there, Ewan.
Yeah, there possibly has been. It wouldn't be the first one we've seen, certainly here, but it's certainly got the pace. Nunes, who's seemingly getting to grips with this car. We saw Fabek and Lozanov trading in the fastest laps a little bit earlier on, but as these guys get more used to the conditions, they're going to get a little bit faster, and the fuel load is going down as well, so they'll be able to go that little bit faster here as well, which is obviously very helpful, and Nunes is using that right now to his advantage. But yeah, I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing to close a margin like this. You've got to do those lap times kind of consistently, really. And Nunes not quite been able to do that over the last few laps. He keeps gaining and then falling away again. So if he just smooths that out a little bit, then he'll be in with a chance of a podium, definitely. But the top two certainly getting away from the field.
And this is the fascinating thing with this, with about 35 minutes left to go in the race. It's really still anybody's game. We've seen some really strong performances in the first half of this race with the likes of our race leader Fabian Fabek, who is, I mean, he is tearing away, but Christian Lozanov as well, we can't discount him either. And the thing is, if these two get into a tangle with each other, then that leaves the door open for about 6 other cars to fight it out for the lead. But now look at that rain is absolutely hammering it down now, and combine that with the spray of the car in front and the fact that it's only going to be getting worse over the next 40 minutes. I think we're going to have a really, really brutal sting in the tail of this race here, Ewan, because if things are bad just now, how much worse can they get?
Oh, yeah, can conditions actually get this bad or worse than this on Earth? I don't know, because I've not seen it. But yeah, it's possible. And obviously the tyres are going to be wearing down, the fuel load changes, so the balance of the car kind of changes with that as well. And you just get tired as well, and the mistakes are going to start to creep in. So it's going to be a very, very interesting end to this race, and we're going to see who can hold on really onto the positions that you've got, who can maybe push forward as well. Because if you do save that little bit of something for those final moments, then maybe you can use that to push on forward with a couple of positions from those who are tired and making a couple of mistakes. So yeah, let's wait and see over the next half an hour over whether that's going to happen or not, but certainly for now it's all about staying on the road and just keeping things how they are. And Ferhat still behind Edo. I feel like these two have been together for a little while now, and Ferhat has been trying to get through on BMWs for ever since he made a mistake a little bit earlier on in the race, and he's not really been able to clear himself from those BMWs since.
But you fancy his chances though, because I mean, you look at the fact now that we've got one BMW in the top 10. The BMW is really, really struggling with this configuration with Nurburgring and these heavy wet conditions. The Porsches very much enjoying them. We've got 4 Porsches into the top 10, and Mansur Ferhat here, you get the feeling that just waiting and just edging that car ever closer, and I think he's just waiting for his opportunity to strike and to pounce on this. And you can see again the BMW just power sliding through the Schumacher S's here on the run up to the final chicane here. But again, the Porsche a little bit earlier on the brakes here, and the BMW gets to run away with it. But still in the lead of this race with 30 minutes left to go. Then it's going to be Fabian Fabek from Christian Lozanov. So yeah, I'm not sure what we've got in store for the final half hour of the race here. And Kieran Prendergast has lost a place down to Engelhardt in the 911. So yeah, in fact, actually no, that's sorry, Kuzma, of course, because the timing tower takes a little bit of time to update. So that is number 7 of Kuzma in the Porsche, who is in front of him just now. So halfway through the race, is this what you were expecting, Ewan?
Well, yes, in a way, because obviously we've seen a lot of survival and a lot of mistakes at a few spins, but I have to say the mistakes have been limited compared to what I was expecting as well, and obviously this race for the race win is looking absolutely fantastic as well. Was expecting a few bigger margins in terms of the top two. Only 1.1 seconds after half an hour is very impressive indeed between those two, but further down the order we are getting obviously the field stretching out quite a lot, which is to be expected, more than you'd see in a dry race anyway at this stage, but in the way it's staying a little bit closer than you might expect. That prediction of 10 cars on the lead lap not looking quite so smart anymore. It looks like there's going to be quite a lot going to be on the lead lap towards the end by the looks of things, unless we see a dramatic wearing of the tyres, wearing of the bodies and the brains and whatever for all of these guys, then it's looking like they're going to be a lot of them getting towards the end with some decent results.
And that is exactly what we are here to see. Alessio Brenda on the back of the 889 of Aguilera. Again, this is for 20th and 21st positions, but the positions still, the way they're fighting for them, you'd think this was for the final top 10 or points paying place. Of course, we don't have any of those tonight, since it's just a bit of a fun race that we're having here at the SimGrid. We've got yellow flags out on track. They've briefly been pulled back in, so again, whatever car that was running slowly is back out on track as well. But the other thing that's impressed me is I still can't believe that we're halfway into the race, and it does, for me personally, feel like Christian Lozanov is just watching his time on this. He's got the pace for Fabian Weber. He's now 0.7 of a second behind, but he's waiting for the right opportunity to strike here, because he gets close and then backs off a little bit, as we've got yet another yellow flag here. So if that is the case, Ewan, what reason do you think Christian would have for dropping off and then coming straight back?
Well, I think that first of all, he knows that he qualified better than Fairbeck in this one. I think mostly the Porsche is in the lead due to a fantastic start. We saw Fairbeck on the outside line into turn number one. He was braver than the rest. He was late on the brakes, but Brenda was very good on the brakes there and managed to get himself in the top 20. But Fairbeck was very late on the brakes into turn number one. He was on the outside line, and a lot of people, when they're in that position, don't want to be particularly brave, because you can get yourself onto the curb and the AstroTurf very easily. You find yourself sailing off, and obviously you could be 25th after the first turn. So obviously people wouldn't, the risk versus reward for a lot wasn't really worth it. But for Fairbeck, it was his best chance at getting towards the front. He absolutely went for it, and obviously when we saw the spin of Thummel in the opening laps as well, he was able to take the lead from there ahead of Lozanov. But the Mercedes knows that he is better off in qualifying, and I feel like Lozanov has the confidence to be able to wear Fairbeck down towards the end of this race. The moves don't need to happen all at the start. They don't need to happen immediately as soon as the opportunity arises. He's got the time. He's got an hour. He can bide his time just a little bit, and so I think he'll begin to pick apart the Porsche a little bit later on. But for now, he's quite happy running where he is.
And that is the big thing, is that it's that confidence, isn't it? It's that ability to think, right, okay, I've got 27 minutes left to go here. I don't want to risk anything, because look at these BMWs. They're just absolutely throwing it sideways on almost every single corner. This is a nice little battle that we've got going on here. This is Engelhardt in the 911 in the front there, and Kuzma along with Kieran Prendergast at the back there. So this is a three-car battle for position. This is for 7th place right now, and it does look like the 911 of Engelhardt really just struggling a little bit more than the car behind him, the Porsche behind him of Nico Kuzma. So Niels Engelhardt being pressured and harassed, and Nico Kuzma here looking very, very fighty indeed. This is up through the Schumacher S's here. In fact, no, it's not actually. It's earlier on, because this is just on the run down. So this is Valvoline and Ford Curve on the run down to the Dunlop curve here. So if I'm getting mixed up with the track position, I can only imagine how the drivers are feeling here, trying to look at the brake markers. But you see how much Nico Kuzma here onto the back of Engelhardt, and he really wants this position, Ewan, doesn't he?
Oh, absolutely. He's going to do well to get it around the outside here, the Schumacher S, and he backs out of it, which is the sensible thing, of course. But we're getting into the second half of the race, and obviously there's less time remaining than there was a few minutes ago, and all of a sudden you do want to start to make moves forward. You know, people have been biding their time and sticking where they are, but if you do want to get any more positions than just the one that's in front of you, then you are going to have to start making a move. Obviously that doesn't really apply to what we were just talking about with the two leaders, but if you're in the midfield like the likes of Kuzma, etc., then you do want to start getting through the field if you want to maybe knock on the door of a top 5. But it looks like he's got a little bit wide, and all of a sudden Pendergast has got a chance to get through, and has done. No real competition there as we go up to the leaders. A real challenge coming on here from Lozanov.
Yeah, he's decided enough is enough. Christian Lozanov is pulled the pin and pulled the trigger. It is go time, and the rain is absolutely teeming down here at Nurburgring, with conditions set to get even worse. As you see the Porsche sliding from side to side, trying to get some sort of traction in those tyres, but it's not to be. But he has got a good run. He's opened up a bit of a gap there, about 0.4 of a second over Lozanov now. Lozanov trying to get back, but it's under braking that Lozanov can just fire that car in. But as soon as the Porsche gets the light pedal under it, the traction is incredible from that machine. He roars into life, gets up and pulls it down into the Dunlop curve. So really, really enjoyed itself here just now. As we have a look at who have we got here. That is the number 1. So that is just there we go. Yes, that's Meister Ferhat that is just making his way around just now.
Oh dear, yeah, he's got into the back of Eder there for 12th position and spun himself around, I think. I don't think he's affected Eder too much, although maybe he has, but yeah, shame to see that one. They were getting quite close, and a good fight developing between the two.
That's not the way you want to see things, but again, Adair is really not been affected by that, but Meister Ferhat really struggling with this car now. Frustration is going to be settling in with Meister Ferhat right now, because you've got to say that was all of his own accord there, and that's lost him 2 positions. And Christian Lozanov has a huge moment coming into the final chicane there, and gets it going again. But yeah, this is not looking too good right now. This is the heavier rain coming down now, and really you're starting to see here, Ewan, the effects of this, because this track is now absolutely flooded.
Well, yeah, it's I can't say it's noticeably worse than it was before, but it's certainly taking its toll now, certainly on all of these guys. And it's becoming a real challenge, as we see here. I feel like Lozanov has been doing a similar thing throughout, because we keep seeing that gap fluctuate between, you know, nose to tail, and about 2 seconds between the two. I just wonder if Lozanov has been making similar mistakes to that throughout, and he's kept catching up to Fabek. If he keeps, you know, reeling him in and then makes the move, and then, you know, stays consistent throughout the final part of the race, and he has got the pace to win this, but it's easier said than done, certainly just surviving these conditions. So he does have to really get his game face on here almost, and just try and stay consistent at least for the final 20 minutes, make a move on Fabek, and if he does manage to do that, then he should be able to take home the win, because I do believe he's got that extra little bit of pace.
Yeah, we've got yellow flags out just now. The number 42 of Venter is into the wall just after the Schumacher S's, so that looks like that is going to be a terminal event for that 42. Indeed, into the pits they go. The 889 I also noticed was into the pits and disconnected as well. That was Matteo Aglieri. He brought out a yellow flag about 2 laps ago. Brilliant point actually from Memoyne on YouTube here, Ewan, is the fact that the Porsche will get even more unstable as it goes on, because the fuel tank is in the front of that car. So when that gets emptier, there's less weight pushing that down, and the front end is going to get a lot lighter, so meaning that the entire weight distribution on that car is going to become really, really difficult in these conditions because you want as much weight on those front wheels, giving you traction and giving you the grip.
Well, yeah, that is true, but I feel like the balances of all the cars again. This is quite a hard hit, by the way. Through the Schumacher S on the exit there. Probably the fastest corner really on this circuit, straight into that wall that really just come out at a bad angle if you go in like that. But yeah, unfortunately Venter out of the race now. Yeah, I feel like all of the cars are going to be struggling with the kind of changes of weight distribution throughout. I know the Porsche does have a slightly more strange situation as Muscat is going off again, I'm afraid. Yeah. Oh dear! Contact for the lead. Lozanov goes too deep into one. And Fairback goes around. Prowl could well take the lead here, and he does.
Oh, that's unfortunate because he wanted Fairback to take that position, but Fairback, a little bit too eager on the throttle, spun the car again, and Lozanov deciding to stay behind Fabian Fairback. So now we have a new race leader, everyone. Maximilian Prowl from absolutely nowhere is just away into the front now. The question is Maximilian Prowl going to run away with this, or is he going to get kept in contention? I don't think he will, because I think Christian Lozanov, the thing is that they were dropping him. He was about 6 seconds back, and he wasn't really making any time on them. So I think Lozanov will make the time once he can get past Fabian Fairback, and then I think he'll get onto the back of Prowl quite easily. But again, that's a good gap that's been given, and he first has to clear Christian Lozanov right now, and that is no mean feat. And well, there we go, that's Lozanov off into Dunlop Curve. So what the hell has happened in the past 2 minutes here, Ewan?
Well, yeah, it's really time to go now for Lozanov, because if he wants to win this race, because obviously he was stuck behind Fabic there, and then needs to catch and pass Prowl as well. But these mistakes are starting to creep in, as we suspected they might, and so he's been off it in a couple of times in the last few moments. Prowl, not exactly slow, he has got the fastest lap of this race, but whether he's as fast as the leading two or the previous leading two that we saw still remains to be seen. I'm going to be very interested to see what Fabic can do about his fellow Porsche runner up front there. Is he going to be able to reel him in or not at this stage? 2 seconds at the first sector line. What's it going to be heading into the final sector? Just under 2 seconds maybe, and it is. So maybe there is still a race on between these two Porsches, but Lozanov has definitely got to be rattled by this last lap. A couple of very costly mistakes.
I'm wondering if there's front end damage, very slight front end damage to the front of Christian Lozanov there. We saw him going into the back of Fabian Fairback there. It could have easily been enough to cause a slight amount of aero damage, such as the advanced damage model that is on Assetto Corsa Competizione here, that it can really show some very, very subtle issues, especially with the handling of the car. Tyre pressures as well get wiped out immediately when you have an accident or you hit a curb or things like that. Not all the time, but they can have a real impact, and that leads to more issues, because you have to take that time to work that heat back into the tyres and work those pressures back in. But 17 and a half minutes left to go in this race. The Rainmeister's second year here at SimGrid, this time doing it a little bit differently. It's German cars only here in the Nurburgring in Germany. We've got another yellow flag out just now, and that's the one. That is Ferra again having huge problems, and he is going to drop all the way down to 19th place if he doesn't get a move on right now. We're watching Nico Kuzma here for Trivial Sim Racing in the number 7 Porsche, trying to catch down the number 911 Porsche of Niels Engelhardt right now. Engelhardt looking like he's got the guise of this just now. The reason I'm stuttering, the reason I'm stumbling, is because I've just been told by production that Maximilian Prowl has had a moment. He's gone off and is now just about 0.2 of a second ahead of Fabian Fairback and Christian Lozanov. So, well, this is a little bit of a turn up for the books. Talk about ratcheting up the pressure. There is no danger that Prowl will be able to soak up this pressure, because Fairback, I think, wants that lead back, and he will be coming for it. 16 and a half minutes left to go. This is game on.
It absolutely is, because I believe both of them are being caught by Lozanov at this stage. They slide their way through turn 12. Nunes is only a couple of seconds behind him, and then we've got Curtin and Thummel battling over 5th position, only a few seconds back. After that, as off goes Fabek just in the background. The gap was only 1.1 at the chicane, but he's had to run across the grass, and now Lozanov is going to be fancying his chances all of a sudden again. Just that we're about to get all of the leaders in one camera shot here at Very Almost, because we've seen a lot of mistakes over the last few moments, and this is really closing up for the race lead. Now only 1.2 between Fabek and Lozanov again.
Certainly is, and there is chaos going on all through the track just now. Interesting point actually to say there is that the number 15 in 4th place is remarkably up into almost into the podium position. So Alex Nunes, your highest split 2 driver, is up into 4th, but was fastest last lap. That has now been taken by fastest last lap. So again, the pace is there from Nunes, and he's now just 2 seconds off of Lozanov as well. So splitting these 4 cars is the matter of 5.5 seconds. So this is a little bit interesting right now.
Yeah, absolutely is. I think the top 6 are all within a fighting chance of winning this race with 15 minutes to go, really, given the unpredictability of this one so far. Thummel has just made a brief mistake in the last minute or so he has lost a couple of seconds, but he's still very much in the conversation as well for a good result. But there's a big gap back to Engelhardt and Kuzma, who we were seeing battling not so long ago. So anybody not in the top 6 at this stage probably out of it, and we probably knew that already. But either way, speaking of out of it, Furhat completely off the road there and trying to get back on it, but really not been his day.
Yeah, Furhat has really struggled in these conditions, and to be fair to him, he's given it a really good effort, but wow, definitely did not see this coming. The thing is if this pace, the slower pace, keeps continuing, and Nunes catches up as well, and they slow further down, there's nothing stopping Olivier Curtin and Thummel catching back up to the tail end of that group as well. That's only maybe about 3-4 seconds away from catching that up, and that's definitely not out the realms of possibility here. With 19 laps in the book, it looks like Lozanov is shaping up for another move on Fabian Fabek.
He's very good on the brakes as well here in the Mercedes. He seems to be very strong into turn number 1. He might even be close enough even from here. He's really closing up here. You can see almost bumper to bumper now. We're right on the splitter of the Mercedes, so the conditions actually look a little bit better than what the driver can see. Thankfully, I guess, for us, but trying to make his way through here. As I said earlier on, time is running out for him a little bit earlier. We saw these two in a similar situation about 10 minutes ago, but it was only them two in the picture. Ever since that little bit of contact between the two of them, a whole wave of new cars has been let into this fight, and all of a sudden Lozanov is pressed for time. Only 13 minutes to get past Fabek and catch Prahl and pass him for the race lead as well. So he does have his work cut out right now, and any time that he can save by getting through on the Porsche in front would be very useful indeed for him.
Just try to think back to the lead of this race here, where we thought it was going to be Yannick Thummel who took advantage of that early chaos at turn 1, as Christian Lozanov absolutely sent it in the Dunlop curve there. Got it going again, but yeah, that was a little bit optimistic to say the very least here. Just having a look as well, remember when Thummel was in the lead I think it was just turn 3 or turn 4 on lap 1, and we thought, oh, he's got a chance here, and he just dropped like a stone. I'm really impressed to see that he's still up there in 6th position. It's been a fantastic comeback drive for Yannick Thummel, but we'll talk about that a bit more later. Christian Lozanov there wanting to take advantage of a mistake there from Fabian Fabek. The car slides out to the left hand side, there's a little bit of a wiggle, and this is the opportunity for Christian Lozanov. Gets the position up into P2 and didn't even have to fight for it. It was a mistake from Fabian Fabek, and that puts him down to P3. Christian Lozanov is now chasing down Maximilian Prahl, who has now got lap traffic, the first of the lap traffic to deal with. That is going to be the number 23 of Simone Nafra. So with 11 minutes left to go, this is yet another sting in the tail for this race here, Ewan.
Yeah, Lozanov really needed to make that move, and he got it done very well indeed. Favek didn't really have anything to defend with, because he was all over the road trying to control his own car anyway, and Lozanov just slipped straight through. But Prahl is now deep within the traffic. Well, there's a couple of cars, I guess, for him to negotiate. Firstly, Nafra, and then we got a big gap up to the next few cars, really. So he should be okay, and there's not going to be much lap traffic throughout this race by the looks of things, contrary to what we thought earlier on. But it may still play a role in the final 10 minutes. Either way, traffic or not, I think Lozanov has got a real chance of catching Prahl before the end. Whether he can get through or not is another problem, but catching him, I think he will be able to manage.
That last lap before Prahl hit or got into the back traffic there, Lozanov was 1.1 seconds faster than your race leader right now, and the gap 2.3 seconds, 10 minutes to go. Yeah, I think that all adds up to a very, very spicy finish to this race. We're going to watch with bated breath to see whether Christie and Lozanov can indeed get onto the back end of Maximilian Prahl for Flyby Esports right now. They're coming up towards the left-hander here. And this is a huge mistake for Maximilian Prahl. Hands on the platter, he spins again, and there's cars everywhere, going everywhere on that left-hander, trying to get going there, and Prahl still can't get that car back on the track. That is how you go from hero to zero, my friends, in the blink of an eye.
Oh dear, 5 positions lost there, and a couple of lap cars through on him as well. It was a big mistake, just all on his own. The pressure getting to him very early on. Lozanov was really not closing very quickly at all, and he was, or hadn't been chasing for very long at all, I should say. And a bit of an unforced error there, really, from Prahl. Oh, as we've got another car, Engelhardt has gone around as well in the Porsche. I wonder if Charisma was something to do with that, because he's slowed down, maybe trying to give some positions back or something, but he's kind of gone now, so maybe he's kind of going to forget about it. But yeah, multiple spins at the very same corner on the very same lap for a couple, and there's more in the background. Charisma looks like he's gone round again.
Well, this is a fun end to the race, isn't it? Goodness me, Engelhardt is absolutely sent to oblivion right there, and that means that Kim Prendergast can kind of relax and head off into the sunset here, as he is going to make his way up through in that seventh place here. Excuse me. You've got Maximilian Prahl trying to make that recovery drive here, as you've got the 42 still in the pits. That is, of course, Venter. I do believe they'll actually retired from the race, but your race leader, Christian Lozanov, now that gap 3.8 seconds after all of those incidents there. Fabian Fabek there into second position, and then Nunes now in third with Olivier Curtin into fourth place. Would you ever have believed for Alex Nunes that they were going to get a podium position out of this?
Oh, I don't think he would have believed it, really, but it's all about what we said at the start. You've got to be consistent and survive this race, and then good things will come to you, and that's exactly what has happened for Nunes. Case in point, really, for him. So yeah, it just shows what you can accomplish at a race like this if you just keep it on the road. And Caputo, I guess, might be another example of it as well. I know he's dropped down a little bit from the 7th place, which he got up to earlier on. However, he's still inside the top 10 and doing the best by a country mile, actually, of any of the BMWs. 20 seconds back to the next BMW. He really has outperforming that car at the moment.
I'm going to throw an absolute curveball in the final 7 minutes here, Ewan. I'm going to say that Maximilian Prahl is going to get a podium here. He's about 6 seconds behind Nunes right now. But the pace he's got, he is looking good. It depends on how he does on this lap here. If he can get past Thummel quickly, then I think that Prahl is going to be back on for getting a podium here.
It's a bold call, but it's possible as Engelhardt's gone round again, actually, at the very same corner, I must say. But yeah, I don't quite think Proulx's going to be able to get up to the podium positions by the end, but he's very much on the back of Fummel at the moment. Might be able to get past him. I just think he's going to run out of time, really. Only 3 laps to go, realistically, so that's 1 pass per lap, and there's a couple of seconds of gap between each of the cars as well, which is not playing into his hands. Oh!
Well, there we go. That's not going to happen then, because Nuno. I was just trying to see there who is actually spun off. In fact, that is Nunes is spun off. So, well, there we go. That's certainly made things a little bit easier for the 195 of Maximilian Proulx. So up to 5th position. I'll take those odds. Thank you very much.
It's all of a sudden looking a little bit better. But we'll see if it can still happen for him, because Fummel is going to try and hold him off for this, what is 4th place now. Another case of just driving safe and getting up towards the front, because we've only seen 1 mistake from him today, and so that's what's got him up so far. I'm afraid Sean Shute has had a couple of mistakes, and he's dropped maybe outside the top 15 in a few moments' time. And might be about to retire as well, because he has not had the best day. But Pro is really starting to make an impression on the back of Fummel at the moment, but no way through just yet.
Oh my goodness me. Right, let's see what happened then. And this looks like it is down into turn 1 for Alex Nunes. Late onto the brakes, and it's just not going to stop, and it stops too much actually. That is what happens when you've got the brake balance loaded too much to the front. Very, very harmless incident, but again that will cost him the podium. Maximilian Proulx now hunting down Yannick Thummel in front of him now, just half a second, and then he's got another 2.5 seconds. I think you're right. I think it's going to be a tall order now to get the podium. He needed to get past Yannick Thummel here, and I don't think it's actually going to happen, especially because Nunes is charging down right now, and there's now about 4 seconds between Proulx and your 3rd place here. So it could have been, but I think that's now just slipping away as we come towards the end of the race here. It's still Christian Lozenov now by a whopping 5 seconds ahead of Fabian Febeck there in 2nd position. Olivier Curtin in 3rd in that 111 Porsche, 4 seconds behind Febeck. Then Yannick Thummel in 4th position, Maximilian Proulx in 5th, Alex Nunes in 6th, Kieran Prendergast in 7th, with Kuzma in 8th, Caputo in 9th, and Engelhardt in 10th position. I think we're going to have a relatively calm end to this race. That's what I'm hoping.
I think that's a brave call at this stage, considering what we've seen over the last 5 or 10 minutes or so, and what I thought was going to happen at the start, which was people falling away towards the end and possibly even more mistakes. But let's see if that happens. So on the penultimate lap now, the leaders. So or maybe the penultimate lap. Maybe there'll be 3 more. We'll wait and see. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there might even be another twist in the tail in the top 6 here. But it's all about keeping on the road at this stage. There's not much you can do from these distances unless you're outside of the podium positions. For example, Lozenov, Febeck and Curtin all can't really overtake each other from this point. They're too far back, and there's too little time remaining for them to really do anything about each other at this stage. But you're just about keeping it on the road and making sure you get to the end really at this stage. And for the moment, it looks like Lozenov is going to do that once again. He's only really made 1 error in this race, and that was hitting Febeck. Really, he's not gone for any spins in this race and not really done anything wrong either. It's been a very clean and consistent one from him so far, but there is still time, as Proulx is showing, sliding off out of 5th position down to 6th.
Well, we'll just not say anything about the fact that I said he was going to get a podium there. We'll just ignore that. Anyway, Christian Lozenov then in the 126 in the race lead, then coming round towards the final corner, and you're right, this is going to be the penultimate lap. This is going to be the last lap he's starting here, because he is not going to get across the line in time. So this will be, I'd imagine, the final lap here with 2 minutes left to go on the clock. Fabian Febeck still in 2nd place there. That's going to be about 7 seconds, 6.6 seconds behind. So the day really has belonged to Christian Lozenov, so we'll stay with him on this final celebration lap then as Meister number 2 comes to an end here at the SimGrid. It's been a fantastic race, a fun-filled race, and a chaotic race, and I never like to see a BMW crossing the middle of the track. Why did that car just go from one side of the track to another? Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Anyway, so yeah, Christian Lozanov really has been an absolute hard charger here. He was denied that lead by the end of the first lap there, and had to pull off a remarkable recovery run here, and that's exactly what he has done here. He's got things going again, and keeping it on track just now. He's coming down the hill towards the Dunlop curve for the final time then. This long right-hander, the double apex right-hander, as a 24 tries to come back on the track as well. That's René Ritnandito down in 17th position here, and even at this late stage of the race, you can see just the tribulations and the trials that these cars have got trying to keep it onto that black stuff, or whatever looks like the black stuff at this time of night. 3:08 a.m. at the virtual recreation of Nurburgring. Coming down into the left-hander then, this is through in Michelin curve, and then it's through into the Vorsteiner curve, the right-hander, before the long run up, and then that jinking right-hander just full. Well, I say full, I don't know if they'd be full in these conditions here, but through Van Bogen up the hill towards the NGK chicane for the final time of asking. It's been an exemplary performance from Christian Lozanov. He's really had to fight hard to get this done and dusted and in the books, but through the NGK for the final time, it's then going to be round the Coca-Cola curve for the final time of asking for Christian Lozanov. It's been a well-deserved win. Meister number 2 goes the way of the Mercedes-AMG of Christian Lozanov. It's going to be second place for the Porsche of Fabian Fabik. Third place is going to be the Mercedes of Yannick Thummel, who, goodness knows how he's managed to get third place out of that. A great result there. Brilliant stuff. And then it's going to be Alex Nunes in 4th position. Maximilian Prahl in 5th as well there. Wow, that was a race and a half there, Ewan.
Yeah, it was, and if you were to say at the start then that Lozanov in the Mercedes is going to win by 8 seconds, then you would have thought that it was going to be a boring race, but it absolutely wasn't. There was a lot of stuff going on there indeed, even to the very final lap, with Curtin, I believe, just connecting actually very late on.
That's what I've just heard.
Out of the podium position. So Thummel is indeed going to get a reward for his long slog back to the front of the field, and fair play to him. But we saw those battles between Lozanov and Fabek, and you just wonder what might have happened without those mistakes. But I think Lozanov's pace might have just been able to overpower it all anyway, because if you look at an 8-second gap towards the end, he was still going at a pace that nobody else could still manage really late on in that race. And so even without all of the different things going on that we saw throughout, I think his pace would have won overall anyway.
Amazing stuff. So what a race we have been treated to, and just watching as Jacques Vermeulen in the Project JR machine just bringing it round the final corner to get it going. The thing is as well is what was brilliant for me, Ewan, is we saw just what a marathon this was. It was only an hour race, but I guarantee those drivers are going to be absolutely shattered by the end of this race.
Yeah, the concentration levels that have been needed throughout the last hours quite massive, and so there's going to be a lot of tired people here. Obviously you're just going to be pretty drained really at fighting the car for now, because as we saw in those onboard shots, it's never quite going smoothly, it's never comfortable, and so you are always working. Unlike being in the lead or being in a comfortable position in a dry race, you can kind of nurse the car home and just stroke it home, but that's not really an option in the wet. You do have to stay very alert right till the end.
You absolutely do. So there we go. Meister 2 is in the bag. A huge congratulations then to a race winner, Christian Lozanov, who absolutely deserved taking the win from tonight's madness. It really was absolute madness. A huge thank you, as always, to our commercial partners, to Coach Dave Academy, to Thrustmaster, and a huge thank you as well to our production team behind the scenes as well, to Mike Yao and to Michael Hamlet. And to Ewan O'Leary, joining myself, Dave Christie, in the commentary box, and that was a really, really fun night tonight.
It was indeed. Thanks very much for having me. I'm glad to be back on the SimGrid again, and hopefully I will be again quite soon, because the racing here never disappoints, and on ACC as well, never disappoints either, does it? So looking forward to the next one, and very much enjoyed this evening.
Yeah, it really, really is a fantastic night. Don't go anywhere, folks. We will see you back here on Saturday at 2 p.m. for the Season 4 of the Endurance Cup. I'll be back in the booth. I believe it's Andy McEwen joining me on the booth for that one as well. From myself, though, and Ewan Leary, thank you very much for joining us tonight. A very, very wet Nurburgring. We're off to go and have some hot chocolate and some marshmallows. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.